streaming. Oh. It's an easy bit. This is where yeah, we kind of prepare ourselves for the session ahead. It's the warm-up. Now I think the warm-up is one of those aspects of training and riding a bike which is, I think, always overlooked and underappreciated. So if you think about it, you know, your warm-up is your chance to really get in the zone and prepare for the ride you're going to do, whatever it may be. And that's both physically and psychologically as well. So if you take today, for example, you know, a lot of people doing this session would have been in work all day, maybe sat at the desk, on the move. But either way, you know, you may have had a tiring day, or you may have kind of, if you're sat at a desk, may have yeah, just been quite stiff. So the start of the warm-up is really just to get your body into the swing of simply pedaling the bike. Just sending the pattern from your brain to your legs. Say, right, we're going to start moving in a certain way. As simple as, you know, left leg, right leg. We're going to start doing that. And it takes a couple of minutes for your brain to realise what's going on and to efficiently start, yeah, pumping oxygen around the body to supply your legs with, yeah, energy, fuel, and that being oxygen. And also it helps, yeah, raise your heart rate. It dilates your blood vessels, so literally makes your blood vessels bigger, so your blood passes through it more easily, which reduces the stress on your heart, which is quite important. And psychologically, the warm-up is really important. So now we're just dialing into the effort. So we're getting ready for what we're gonna do today for today's session. And as is with riding on the turbo and riding on Zwift and on the outdoors as well, when we ride, you know, when we don't ride for very long, so maybe we do, max session is an hour, maybe an hour and a bit. You know, you can achieve a great deal in that short amount of time, but in order to, let's call it, skimp on volume, you've got to replace that volume with intensity. So the point I'm coming to is, when we're on Zwift, chances are we're going to be riding quite intensely, quite hard, which requires a lot of focus. And no, ultimately you've got to be up for it. You've got to be up for the session. Because ultimately you're going to hurt yourself. You're going to, you know, be trying hard and in completing this quality structured session. So yeah, this warm-up is the chance to kind of ride out, as we say at Rowe King. Kind of ride, just start off your warm-up nice and easy. Just tickle those pedals and slowly build into it, build into the session, and yeah, just get ready. So we got 4.5 minutes left of the warm-up, and all the time you should start feeling a bit more comfortable on the bike as you settle into the session. I think as well, if you've had a bit busy day or a stressful day, whatever, jumping on the turbo is a perfect way to unwind. And before you go into some real hard effort, structured stuff, the warm-up, just an opportunity to just enjoy the bike for what it is. Just enjoy riding your bike. So if you're on Zwift, it's just a chance to sit here and, you know, relax. Nothing to worry about, just in your little zone. So I call it my happy place on Zwift. And if you're out on the road, it's a chance to just, you know, admire what's going on around you, the scenery, the fresh air, the wind blowing past your ears. It's that noise. It's very kind of relaxing state, I guess. That's one of the joys, for me, one of the joys that cycling brings. So we should be starting to get a little bit warmer now. We should feel like a couple of beads of sweat are starting to form. If they're not forming yet, then either your fan's on ridiculous speed or or you don't sweat a lot. So for the whole of today's session, there's no prescribed cadence. So for the entirety of everything we do today, you know, you can pedal at whatever cadence you need or you feel comfortable to produce the power. So we're not trying to play with your cadence today. It's purely about working in the right zones, stressing the right systems to stimulate the right, or the kind of the target adaptations to make us a better bike rider. And by better, today we're increasing your lactic threshold as being, becoming a better cyclist. So again, your threshold is, you know, it's a buzzword, but it is actually fundamental to, you know, being a cyclist, no matter what discipline you do. So if you're a leisure rider and you go out once a week or twice a week with friends, compared to if you're a racer, you're doing road races, even like the Tour de France guys like Chris Froome, wherever on that spectrum you sit, threshold is absolutely key. And the reason being, your threshold, or your lactic threshold, is a precise point at where your body is recycling the lactic at the same rate as being produced. And you can hold that kind of effort, sustain that type of effort, which is very demanding of energy, of glycogen. You can stay in that state for about an hour. So you can ride at threshold for about an hour, if push comes to shove. But that is a huge, huge effort. So, you know, let's take a sportive rider. I think a lot of people on Zwift fall into that category, you know, me included. If you assume you're improving your threshold by, let's take an arbitrary figure, 50 watts, which is quite a lot. But say over 6 months you improve 50 watts. That's going to give you a 50 watt buffer. So you travelling now at a certain speed compared to you travelling in 6 months at the same speed with a higher threshold, you're going to be, 6 months on, you're going to be working well under your threshold for the same speed. So it just helps you become, that all-round more efficient bike rider. I know those long alpine climbs, for example, or any long climb, having a higher threshold is just going to mean you can produce that high power for longer and get up a climb a lot more efficiently. You know, time trialing, we ride at or around threshold a lot of the time. So the higher that is, or the higher your threshold is, the more, the faster we can travel. Basically, the more power we can produce, ultimately the faster we travel. So we just finished our warm-up ramp. We've got 30 seconds left, and then we're going to do a quick activation sprint. So David, thanks for the comments and hello. So David, we are doing a 55-minute session today, of which we're about 9 minutes in. So plenty more to come. Right guys, activation sprint basically coming up now. Here we go. Lovely. So the aim of that activation sprint there was just to further warm our bodies up. I mean, today isn't a super explosive session in the main, so you don't need to be too fully warmed up from the start. I mean, the natural course of the session is going to provide you with adequate warm-up, really. Okay, slight little error on the screen there. So in 20 seconds, guys, we're going to start our first ramp. It's going to be 8 minutes where it's below threshold for the whole of the 8 minutes. But it's going to start off around 80% and build up to 95% of our FTP, of our threshold. So on feel, that should feel at the start, you know, definitely like we're making an effort, but it should feel relatively controlled. And we're settling in for 8 minutes here, guys. And this first 8 minutes is going to ramp up. So to start with, we are, let's say, around 80% of our FTP, but it's a threshold ramp. So we're going to ramp up throughout the 8 minutes to around 95% of our FTP. So kind of a 15% gain on, we'll kind of move from 80 to 95%. You can see now we've just moved up, or I've just moved up to 320. That's good, guys. That's good. There we go. It's a minute done already. So, if you're doing this session now and you're thinking it's already starting to bite, getting a bit hard, workout mode, and it allows us to adapt the session during game, just to account for those days that we feel either good or bad. So if you're on a bad day, if you're finding this quite hard, now is your opportunity to just reduce the session, or the amount of the session in percentage terms that's applied to you today. And you do that on the left hand side using the arrows. So you should see 100%, then an up arrow and a down arrow to the left and right. If you're finding the session a bit hard, use the down arrow and just reduce the percentage of the session that's applied to you. And if you find the session a bit easy, you can use the up arrow to make it a bit harder. And you know, don't feel like you're cheating by using those arrows. I would just argue you're being smart. So Karami's asking about power, whether I use power or heart rate to gauge my efforts. I use power because ultimately power is what determines how fast we move across the ground. So it's more real in terms of, you know, the effort we're producing. Heart rate has it has a lag in it, but B, there's so many factors that affect heart rate. Temperature for one. If it's really hot, your heart rate will be a bit higher as you're working harder. Also fatigue. If you're really tired, you'll struggle to keep that heart rate up, which is why power is kind of the holy grail really for training. Used to be heart rate monitor or heart rate, but now with advances in technology and kind of the mass availability of power meters at an affordable price, power is now the go-to method. Yeah, well guys, thank you for the kind comments there. You're making me feel good. I mean, I do this quite often, so I'd always say you get kind of good at what you practice in all walks of life. So I spend a lot of time on my bike training and training smartly, quite seriously. So I'm a coach at Rowe King, so I got to practice what I preach. And yeah, I guess 320 watts isn't too tough right now. There's still early days. This kind of effort now is well below the FTP. It's what we call your sweet spot. So we're roughly riding in sweet spot now. So it's in an aerobic state. When we're using oxygen to produce energy, and you should be able to produce this type of effort for an hour if you really had to. It would be quite an effort, but it should be possible. Even more than an hour. What am I on about? Upwards hour and a half, touching on 2 hours. That's kind of the if you really depleted yourself, that's kind of the duration you could ride a sweet spot for. I wouldn't be able to talk at the same time. So Andrew's asking, what is my FTP? Or what is FTP and how do I measure it? How do you measure it? So yeah, FTP, functional threshold power, which is the power you can sustain for 1 hour. So for me that is 360 watts. If I was to really commit, that should be what I can achieve. But of course, to find out what your FTP is, for the most comprehensive explanation, check out our most recent coaching podcast, the Zwift coaching podcast, on iTunes, SoundCloud, I think it's Podbean. There's some great discussion on there about what threshold is, how to calculate it, how to measure it, how to improve it. But I do a 20-minute test, and basically it's a 20-minute time trial. Then I take 95% of the power I could sustain, and that's kind of a good estimate of my of your 1 hour power. Your FTP is great. It's a great measure. However, it's not the be-all and end-all. What's more important is your FTP in relation to your body weight. So that's your FTP in watts divided by your body weight in kilograms to give you a watts per kilo figure metric. So under your name you should see a figure. So mine's 4.3 at the moment. So I'm producing 4.3 watts for every kilogram of body weight I'm carrying. Okay guys, so now's our ramp. So the next 2 minutes are going to ramp up now, guys. So this is where the session is threshold ramps. And this is where the ramp part comes in. So you've been building up to it's all been sub-threshold so far. This is now where you tip over threshold and start working anaerobically. And this, for the former part under threshold, is trying to push up your threshold by developing your aerobic base. And above threshold is trying to develop your anaerobic capacity. It's just trying to drag up your FTP, your threshold. Great effort, everyone. This is a real humdinger of a session. There you go, the end's in sight. 10 seconds left. Well done. Good job. Recovery time. Whew. Drink your poos. Oh. There's some great music there. Okay, this recovery session now. This is where it's really important just to relax. Turn those legs. You know, we're recycling some of those waste products. Yes, we're recycling some of those waste products and just starting that recovery process in between efforts. So if we rode too hard now in this little part in between efforts, we're going to limit the amount of recovery we receive, and ultimately means you're going to start the next interval. So the next 10-minute block, broken down 8 and 2 minutes, like the first one. You're going to start that a little bit too fatigued, and of course the risk is then you can't quite complete the session properly. You may struggle to hit the required power. So yeah, the recovery bits are equally as important, and they're again carefully calculated in terms of their duration and intensity to make sure you are getting enough rest. But you're not allowing yourself to absolutely completely recover, because of course that would take 10, 15, 20 minutes maybe. So this is very much an endurance session. And because we're working around that threshold level, there's no need to be absolutely, perfectly recovered. We're not trying to hit our kind of a max power, peak power in sprints, hitting that neuromuscular power zone or anything like that. It's just more general, threshold fitness related sessions. So again, you don't need to kind of make sure you're too recovered between efforts. So we've got 2 more minutes here, easy, and then we go into the next block. It's another 10 minutes. Ooh. Okay, and remember I said about cadence, you kind of use whatever cadence you feel necessary. Well, that's absolutely the case. Just remember, the most efficient cadence, if you want to try and pedal as efficiently and as aerobically as possible, generally a higher cadence will help you achieve that. And so basically what I'm saying is in the first 8 minutes, a higher cadence would be handy. So if you can pedal up around 75, 80 revs a minute plus 85, even 90, that's going to be the most efficient way to get through the 8 minutes. And as you hit the anaerobic capacity, kind of the 2 minutes at the end where we ramp up quite steeply, that's your chance to really kind of do what you got to do. So chances are you're going to rely on your fast twitch muscle fibers a bit more, i.e. your sheer leg strength, and rely on just simply the force that your muscles can conjure up and apply. And your cadence is going to be kind of your secondary weapon. So guys, 30 seconds and we're back into it. Remember, at the start of these efforts, just try and sit there and just soak that effort up. Now, there's no cheat around this, there's no easy way. You've literally got to sit there, left leg, right leg, and just pedals, turn those pedals. You can focus on slightly changing your pedaling technique, trying to really engage your hamstrings and your glutes by dragging those pedals around, but essentially it's just you, and you just got to produce that power. Okay, here we go. Again, try to keep your body nice and still. Composure is really important in these sessions. That's one thing actually on Zwift inside. I think it's really easy to spot and feel where you're doing well or not form-wise. So I think you can tell generally if you're rocking and rolling or if you're quite steady on the bike. You may have a mirror or something close you can look into, but again, generally you can see I'm either quite steady like I am now, or if you're rocking all over the place, you know we need to try and address that composure issue. If your body is moving quite a lot, that's inefficient. Because what it means is the more body parts that are moving, it means the more muscle fibers that are being recruited, which simply means more oxygen is being used. So oxygen is being diverted away from your legs, which are crying out for it right now, into your arms and your neck, all those other body parts which are being used. But ultimately those are secondary body parts. Your back and your neck is not really where you want your oxygen rich blood to go. You want it all to go to your legs. So keeping your body still is going to limit that diversion of oxygen, ensuring as much as possible goes to and stays in the muscles that you really want it to, i.e. your legs. But also the more your body moves in the real world, just creates turbulence, disrupts the airflow, and is simply less aerodynamic. And for those two key reasons, it's really important to keep your body still. It's a good idea as well to just vary your hand position. So by default I ride on the tops a lot. It's like when you're climbing, just ride up here. That's quite comfortable for me. However, it's a good idea to vary that hand position just like you do in the real world. It's very easy to get stuck in one position on Zwift. There's no need to kind of move, nothing forcing you to move. Whereas on the road, you've got roundabouts and the like, you're constantly switching. It's easy just to get stuck in one position. So hands on the tops, on your hoods, on the drops. It's all a good idea. So in this ramp now, guys, we're just nudging up a little bit. So a little shout out, guys. I see two other Rowe King guys in this group. Nick Andrews and Tank Lewis, James Tank Lewis. Good to have you here, guys. And if you want to join the Rowe King family on Zwift, feel free, just put in brackets Rowe ampersand King, close brackets, and give you a little shout out when I see you. And you can check our website out for a little bit on who we are, what we do, and how we operate. Any queries, questions, just drop me an email and I'll do my best to answer for you. So we're back working around that sweet spot zone now. In an aerobic state, but as you can hear by my breath, I'm starting to dig a bit deeper now. As the kind of the cumulative training load of this session takes hold. So of course I'm carrying some fatigue now from the first block. And come the third and final block, that fatigue will be even more prominent. So what I should feel is through to the 3 blocks kind of gets a little bit harder and harder. So if that's what you're feeling, don't worry, we're all in it together. That's how it should be. Right, that's good, guys, and as the hint on screen says, just stay relaxed. Good job. And you want all the force to come from your hips down. As I mentioned earlier about keeping your body still. You don't want to be pulling on the bars at all. Yeah, all that force, all that torque, you want it all generated from, it sounds obvious, but from your legs. Just pushing the pedals down, dragging them around the bottom, and pulling them up, dragging them up on the upstroke, on the backstroke. Okay guys, 1 more minute of this gradual ramp. So we're still in a aerobic state here. So although no doubt this feels pretty uncomfortable, you know, if your body had to, you could continue producing this power for another hour and a half or so, believe it or not. That's if your zones are calibrated correctly. So if you haven't done a test in a while, might be worth doing one. And as Zwift keeps tabs on your FTP for you, there's no harm in just validating it for yourself. So 10 more seconds, guys. Then we go into our anaerobic capacity ramp for 2 minutes. This will start to get a little bit tougher. And just suck it up, guys. Suck that effort up. Like a well-oiled machine. It's good. That's good, guys, well done. Minute and a half. That's it, guys, pain is gain. Suck it up. Good job. Nice one, another minute left. $50 seconds. Nice one. All the way, guys, 5 seconds. Nice one. Whew. All right, recovery time. Recovery time and drink time. So Marcus is asking a good question there. How come I'm so precise on the watts? Well, there is a bit of a hack going on. I've got a bit of a cheat going on, and that is I'm in erg mode. So if you go into the settings when you're on Zwift, you'll see there's an option to turn your setup controllable on or off, and that is essentially the turbo. Then once you're in erg mode, so your turbo is controllable, the turbo will then apply the resistance that the session is asking you to apply, and you've got to apply it. So what gets adjusted then is your cadence. So say it's asking me to produce 200 watts, and I'm doing like this 65 cadence, and then the demand of the session goes up to 220 watts, so increase to 20 watts. What that's going to do, if I don't adjust my pedaling at all, that's going to slow my cadence down as it gets harder to pedal and feel a bit more sluggish. So to produce the same cadence and then producing more power. So hopefully that makes sense. Just going to get a couple more questions up. Yep, Matthew Johnson, you got it bang on there, pal. Erg mode. I gave away my tricks there, didn't I? I could have just said practice. Right, guys, we've got just over 2 minutes left. Easy recovery. And then we're going to our third and final ramp. Oh, man, I'm drinking a lot today. I was chatting the other day on the Zwift coaching podcast about fueling for Zwift. So, gels, bars, liquids, you know, what is kind of required and what is necessary on Zwift. And, you know, they say anything more than an hour and a half of exercise, you need to be fueling for, i.e. eating during exercise. So for those of you who are doing more than an hour and a half, for sure you need some sort of fuel. But if you take an hour and a half on the road compared to an hour and a half on Zwift, you know, the kind of the stress on your body on Zwift is far, far greater. And the reason is down to muscle tension. So on Zwift, you know, look at me now. I've been pedaling on here for 43 minutes. I haven't freewheeled. So my muscle fibers are tensed. They're being recruited and used the whole time for 43 minutes solid. And that cumulative effect over that 43 minutes without any rest really builds up to give you kind of exponential fatigue and stress on your body. And you compare that with on the road where, you know, after 5 minutes, you can almost guarantee you're going to get to, depending on where you live, a set of traffic lights or a roundabout or something that's going to force you to freewheel, and you just get that tiny little rest, and that just relieves the stress on your body, gives your muscles, allows them to relax, and just makes the all-round session a little bit easier. So coming back to how how tough riding on the turbo and riding on Zwift is. Not to be underestimated. And yeah, you gotta make sure you fuel for it. Okay guys, into our third ramp. So as the last block, we're starting off in an aerobic state, pedaling well under threshold in what we call a sweet spot zone. Now in the early days here, you should feel fairly comfortable. You know, you can feel the effort of course, but you shouldn't be rock and rolling too much. And hopefully you'll feel comfortable enough to just sit there and yeah, produce the power. Okay, good job everyone. You know, we've got a lot of effort in our legs so far now. So this will be harder than the first and second block. So 6.5 minutes left guys with this aerobic ramp. Another name for this session, it's again, it comes in many forms, is over-underers. So this is like one big over-under really, where you do 8 minutes under threshold, then 2 minutes over threshold. And you'll hear loads of different variations of that session. Different durations under, different durations over, you know, flicking between the two, under, over, and the like. There's no one kind of gospel version. You know, in reality, any session that's working, taking you either side of your threshold, forcing you to produce lactic acid, and then recover from that effort before producing more lactic acid again, and going through that cycle of lactate production and recovery and recycling. It's all going to be good stuff. Okay, so the main factor that determines what system to use in at threshold is your cadence. So if you're pedaling quickly, high cadence, 90 revs or something, you're going to be more likely working aerobically. Whereas a low cadence, you're going to be recruiting your fast twitch fibers, working anaerobically, and there's going to be a bigger stress on your actual muscles as opposed to your all-round system. That's really going to help develop your strength endurance, help you become a strong athlete. Because you can never perform unless you're fresh. So the last thing in a periodized training program is a taper. Before that you work on your speed, before that it's power, and before that is strength. And in amongst everything is an element of endurance. And the theory goes you can't perform unless you're fresh. And then before being fresh, you need to be fast. You can't produce speed unless you're powerful. And you can't produce power unless you're strong. So it all starts with strength. And this is a great strength endurance exercise. If you complete this at a low cadence, really working on high torque production. So less than 4 minutes left now, guys. Okay, 3.5 minutes left. Hold it there. Now, chances are your legs will be sore now. You'll be feeling quite tired. So that's a good thing. Because after this session then you can start the recovery process. en route to becoming, yeah, stronger. That's one thing I think far too many people do, certainly from what I've seen riders when we start coaching their own king. We look at what they've been doing previously. Far too many people just been doing too much what I'd call junk miles. You know, riding for too much time, riding too hard for too long, doing too many intervals. It's all about quality, guys. Quality over quantity every time. That's no matter what your target event is. If you're doing sportives, or if you're racing, or if you simply want to get fitter and stronger when out with your mates, quality over quantity every time. Guarantee you. And that's where today's session's so good. Within a 55-minute session, we're going to complete a total of 30 minutes real quality lactate threshold work. All within less than an hour. Whereas I'd argue to get the same physiological stress and adaptation, you're going to have to train for a good couple of hours out on the road. By the time you've ridden out of town, got your efforts done and the like, without any disruption. You know, Zwift, real efficient way to train. Minute and a half, guys. "20 seconds left. "10 seconds. Awesome job, guys, awesome. Okay, guys, 2-minute ramp. Final 2 minutes. Mr. Steele said he's gonna puke. Good man. Suck it up, mate. We're in it together. Great effort. Great effort. And this is where that fatigue really kicks in now. This final ramp for the last effort. Stick with it, everyone. Don't let your formal focus go now just because it's the end. Great job. Minute to go. Last minute. "40 seconds. That's it. Soak it up, guys. Good job. Just sit there. Keep pumping. Well done. "15. 5 5 seconds all the way. Well done. Great. Good job, everyone. Oh, that's a shock. 200-watt cooldown. Whew. Hopefully that slackens off soon. Oh man. Good job, everyone. Wow. Hopefully you're feeling a real sense of achievement there, guys, because that was a darn tough session. Wow. Awesome. So if you look back at what we've actually completed there, you've got 8 minutes times 3 aerobic work, aerobic capacity. So 24 minutes working, let's call it sweet spot, between zone 3 and zone 4. Then you've got 6 minutes then, anaerobic capacity, so well over threshold. And you piece all that together, that's a real significant workload. A real, yeah, it's a lot of stress that we place on the body, guys. So really important now that we warm down thoroughly. So in the session we've got a 5-minute cool down, warm down, whatever you want to call it. We've got a 5-minute cool down, but if after that 5 minutes you still feel your legs a little bit stiff, carrying a bit of fatigue, I mean, they're never suddenly going to feel wonderful, but yeah, we should be able to notice a significant improvement in terms of our perception on feel. We should feel a bit fresher and like we'll come around a little bit. And when you get to that stage, keep spinning the legs really easy for another minute or so, and then it's get off and refuel. The chances are, for anything like me, I wouldn't have drunken enough in this session. So I've drunken about pretty much 500 ml in an hour. I probably sweat a lot more than that out. So once we get off, guys, rehydration, key number 1, then refuel. So you need some carbs and some protein to help repair the muscles. So if you haven't had dinner yet, have a shower. Dinner is absolutely perfect. A nice balanced dinner. If you've had dinner, maybe a bowl of cereal or a protein shake or something like that would be a fair shout. And then we wouldn't have depleted ourselves too much of glycogen. So the main thing we need really is protein. But yeah, a bit of protein, a bit of carbs is going to do us good. Well done, everyone. Oh. So every week when I design these sessions, so Workout Wednesday, guys, every week, every Wednesday, 19:45, Greenwich Mean Time, British Summer Time, UK time basically, every week, same time, and the session's different every week. So normally over the weekend I get creative and design the session for the following week. And you know what, it's so easy when you're sat at my desk in my house, in my study, and thinking what to do. It's so easy to get creative and get carried away without kind of fully appreciating how tough the session is. I think today is probably one of those sessions that was maybe borderline, because I found it really tough. But yes, a great achievement, guys. Everyone who's got through that, fantastic achievement. Depending on what you've done today, what you've got planned for tomorrow, you want to make sure you don't stretch yourself too far. So if you're not used to structured training with intervals like today's been, and today was real stress for you and your legs are going to be tired tomorrow, make sure you're giving yourself enough time to rest and let your body adapt and rebuild itself and repair itself and come back stronger. Because of course it's when we recover, that's when we get stronger, not when we train. So we train, we destroy the muscles, a lot of damage, especially with the intense work we're doing here, and then get stronger when we recover. But yeah, good riding with you guys. See you next week. Thanks for coming. Ride on!